We're
All
live.
right.
Oh, all
We're
right. We're
we're
live.
we're we're live. Now I don't know what to
Hello.
say.
Hello out there, universe. So this is like a first time thing we're doing. Ray Bonilla and I are going to paint portraits together. I guess we can do some backstory, right? Let's intro backstory. Ray and I are good friends, have been for a very long time. 11, 12, 13 years now, Ray?
Yeah, man. It's it's been some time. It's kind of depressing and incredible at the same time.
We're getting old, getting old.
Yeah, yeah.
We both went to the Academy of Art University together in San Francisco, got our degrees in illustration.
Our master's
And
degrees. We have to point that out because
oh yeah,
that makes us extra smart.
it's really important in analog art whether what your actual degree is. So yeah, master's degrees. So and then what we both were in illustration for a while coming out of school, right?
Yeah. That was both of our. I think everyone in our like class. That was like kind of our big focus, going out of it. At least the first couple of years. And then we just kind of started to once we kind of figured out what it is that we really like doing, we kind of got into our own specializations, I guess, right? I mean, like, because you had started doing like traditional illustration, like me, right? Like in terms of magazines and like and the like,
Yeah, I jumped into that like right away. I think I was looking, at least when I got out of school, I was looking at visual development because I wasn't sure where I was going to go. And my portfolio coming out of school was half visual development, half traditional illustration.
right.
So I was looking at some video game companies in the Bay Area, and I'd say about 6 months out, I landed some D&D work from John Shindehedi. And so there's just no turning back at that point. I just went full on into genre illustration. And I did
Right.
some like, I guess, quote unquote mainstream stuff as well. I have the rep in New York, Richard Solomon. So we did a lot of like book advertising, that kind of stuff. But like, I'd say my bread and butter starting back then was genre stuff.
Right. Yeah, and so mine's was a half illustration, half, for lack of a better word, gallery portfolio, like fine art gallery portfolio, because I wasn't sure what it is that I wanted. I kind of wanted to do both, and I wasn't sure wherever I would get the the work from. And I had first I was showing in like galleries in Kansas City and in Park City, Utah, and then trying to get illustration work. So I actually started out in fantasy, art, doing some card game illustrations.
Fantasy Flight, right?
Fantasy Flight games, yeah. And
Yeah.
did a lot of us got our start there, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
Chris Ron did. I know that he was one of the first to have work from them.
Yeah.
That's how I
I
heard
think
it.
I think Mike Lem was as well.
Wow.
I'm not sure. Maybe Mike was. I might be speaking out of turn there. But yeah, we both did work for them right out of school. And it's
Yeah.
stuff I never want the universe to ever see, but I imagine they can look it
up. Now they are.
I think I did like Game of Thrones stuff before Game of Thrones was a popular television show.
Yeah. I remember when Chris Ron was saying like, yeah, I'm doing this thing for this, it's based off this novel series. It's called Game of Thrones. And I'm like, Game of Thrones? I'm like, what a lame title, And now I'm like a huge Game of Thrones fans. Yeah. So so then eventually I ended up like figured out that fantasy, as much as I loved it, and I love like all types of facets of illustration, production, TV, concept art, stuff for film, animation, and fantasy for sure. I really like the traditional stuff, illustration market. So it's like kind of more grounded in, I don't know, ordinary illustration, like editorial and like magazines and advertisements. So I started to do theater posters, did some stuff for the New Yorker and some advertising campaign stuff. And yeah, and then all along the while, I was actually, decided that I really wanted to focus on my fine art, and that's where I am now. Currently, I do illustration occasionally, but my bread and butter is I teach at a university part-time, and then most of my time is spent painting for my galleries. I'm represented by My Bomb Fine Arts in East Aurora, New York, and A-Ben Gallery in Denver, Colorado. And and I've been shown in other galleries and working on stuff like that. But we're here, together painting because, right out of school, Tyler and I would spend a ton of time in graduate studios, because in school we would have these studios where they're basically separated by little nooks that were separated by curtains. And Tyler and I would spend, of course, a ton of time, actually all of our time, every waking moment, in the studios painting and working on our things. And we love the camaraderie and the exchange of ideas, and we're kind of spoiled by it. And once we left, it went from like exchanging ideas and doing all these great things to like nothing, and
vanished overnight, kind of.
Yeah. And so we started to it just sort of like naturally, I don't think we decided to do it. We were just like, hey, you want to get on Skype and just chat? And so we would just spend all day in our studios working on our stuff and sending each other work. And
sorry, there'll be dog barking occasionally, everyone.
And it was really great. I learned, I know for myself, I learned a ton, just from that. And we figured, eventually when we got busy and because we live on the other, both ends of the country. So Tyler's on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. And so we realized that we just ended up just being on our own schedules. And then eventually, just recently we were talking about like, hey, what if we started this thing up again and just painted together,
It's kind of bringing back that conversations that we had. There's so many, I don't know, when we were having those chats on Skype, we would always be bringing up other artists and going down crazy rabbit holes while we're working.
Yeah.
And we wanted to reproduce some of that here and see if we could turn it into a thing.
And so here's the thing.
We might be able to.
Yeah. So today we're going to be painting portraits, I guess. And I'll be painting a portrait in acrylics or attempting to paint a portrait in acrylics of Harrison Ford in Blade Runner, or at least his character Deckard. And Tyler, what are you painting for us today?
I'd started a small series in my free time a little while back of just 80s movies that I loved as a kid, and started doing portraits of characters from those movies. So today I'm doing one from Aliens, Ripley, one of my favorites on the James Cameron film. And I think that's kind of what we're going to be doing today, right? We're just going to be painting and chatting for a couple hours. And the lovely Kate Welch is producing this, and she'll be checking out the chat. If you guys have questions, she'll pipe in and we will answer those.
Yes, please ask any questions whether it's directed at myself or Tyler, or anything. We'll be talking about our approaches and things like that. And but don't be afraid to ask questions. Even though we're working, we could talk and paint at the same time. So that's not a problem.
And let's just roll into these paintings, right?
Let's do this.
What the heck?
I know.
What the hell are these guys doing?
It's like, it doesn't look like Deckard. It's just a gray blob, So
that's actually a good way to chat about process-wise, right? So I started from I projected a photo, so I'm a tracer. nothing wrong with this process. So I projected this line drawing down and kind of hit all the landmarks I want for her portrait. And then I have my reference over here that I'm going to paint from.
And
And
you know,
yeah, go for it, Ray.
yeah. So what are you painting on?
I am painting on this
Surface-wise.
stuff that actually Ray turned me on to. It's called Artifacts. It's I'll bring another one in here. It's an aluminum panel with linen mounted to it. And I've just sort of thrown matte medium over that and stained it down a little bit.
Yeah, for those that don't know, matte medium is just an acrylic medium. It's kind of, it looks like a milky medium. It's great for mixing your paints with, if you want to increase the matte finish of how the paint's dry. But also it's used really often for sealing a surface or even like using as a glue, you know, because I know a lot of collage artists use matte medium to glue things down. So yeah, so
it's great for adhering drawings and stuff.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And I'm painting on in a sketchbook. Actually, it's a heavyweight drawing sketchbook. You could see actually what the color looks like here. It looks it's white paper, but I took some acrylic and mixed up like a gray, black and white acrylic, specifically titanium white and titanium white and ivory black, and mixed up some sort of middle value gray. And I like to work on I don't know about you, Tyler, but I tend to like work, you know, in different ways, you know, depending on like what my mood is. But I'm working in like a middle tone area, so to help me see my values a little bit more. Because if I paint on a white surface like this, there's nothing wrong with that. I've done it actually. I did a painting recently. I just finished one up where that's what I did. But everything you put down is darker than the initial surface, so it's hard to. You really don't have a good idea what it is, the true value, the true lightness or darkness of your what you're putting down until you've really covered everything. So it's kind of like a lesson in patience, and so this kind of expedites the process.
I do a similar thing, to be honest. You almost always paint on like a gray ground, but with these little panels that I've been getting, I've been doing something warmer. But I've killed the whites, as we say, so that I'm not competing with the brightness of that value.
Yeah, that's the big thing, especially early on when you're learning how to paint. Because Tyler and I, we both actually learned how to paint at the same exact time, and actually learned how to do it. Pretty much learned how to do everything, right? I don't know about you. I was pretty inept.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like, right? We went to art school just to figure out what the heck to do, and we learned everything fast.
Yeah, we had to, you know, because they were kicking us out, you know, after 4 years or whatnot. And so so we were trained to do this, to work on toned surfaces, and you know, that includes you know, toned papers as well, and toning our papers in charcoal, and working lights and darks, and it was good training and in teaching us how to see, how to build up an image in a very uniformed manner, so you can get consistent results.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to develop a method that you can at least adhere to, and once you've developed a method, you can start steering away from it with new. I mean, I guess that was what our training was kind of consisted of, like to teach us a number of methods, and once we learn them, we start breaking the rules.
Right. And you know,
which I do now.
In school, I was very like half and half in terms of like accepting of that. It took me a while to kind of understand what was being said, because again, I didn't know anything. So when someone would say like, this is how you do this, you know, I would be like, well, I don't want to follow that method. But it wasn't until we had like so I was very like stubborn, extremely early on. And it wasn't until we had our teacher, and one of our mentors, Bill Mon, who could pretty much create art in every medium, and in any sort of method.
Yeah.
Explained to us that like these were just steps that were a part of just a thought process. That was when I started to really understand why we were learning the things we were learning, and I grew a ton because of that.
Hey guys, it's me. What's up?
Hey,
Hey,
Kate.
this is Kate Welch,
Hey,
everybody.
I've got a great question. Hi, it's Kate Welch. I've got a great question from the chat from someone named Denman Rook. What was the
Hey,
most
Denman.
Denman.
We know
Oh,
Denman
you know
very
Denman
well. Go
Rook?
ahead.
All right, very good. What was the most important thing you learned about running a freelance illustration or fine art business after you started? Something maybe you didn't learn from school.
Oh, that's a great question.
And thanks for the easy
Yeah,
question, Denman. I really
yeah. No
appreciate
softball. Appreciate it.
it.
I mean, I learned so much outside of school. Like, your learning never ends, kind of thing. But dang, it was a little bit of a crucible trying to get into fantasy illustration. Um, so I'd say, because I shifted into, okay, this is kind of a long answer, but I shifted into digital work pretty early on. I started working in oils, and I shifted over to digital, and I had to kind of relearn everything we'd learned in school because we worked traditionally in school. I had to learn everything again, and juggling that with building relationships with art directors, and I don't know, that was a challenge. Maybe I have post-traumatic stress from it. um, but I'd say the hardest part for me was attempting. I think the challenge for me was I got the jobs, which was D&D work mostly, and now I needed to keep them coming. And so I was trying to innovate with each new piece to make each piece better and better and better. Because like we were taught in school, we were both taught like once you get that job, you got to nail it so that you can get more. And so that was driving me forward. I'd say that was my biggest challenge moving forward in my career. How about you, Ray?
I think, you know, I differ entirely in the case that I kind of didn't know what I really wanted to do as an illustrator coming out of school. I just wanted work, and the type of illustration I really liked, kind of didn't exist nearly as much anymore. Like the big editorial illustrations and the stuff a lot of our teachers did in school, it just didn't
Right.
exist. And so I thought, okay, well, let me just get the next best thing. And because we were kind of taught to always have the main point was that, that was always hammered in our heads was the markets will always change. And the one thing that doesn't change is your ability to grow as an artist and learn new things. And so you have to constantly keep your skills up. And if you're skillful, you could adjust and change a market, change to a different market whenever you need to. And it was great because of that. And so we were trained to, do portraits, landscapes, still lifes, multiple figures. We had to be good in everything. And that was great training. It just, when I got out of school, I was sort of in a situation where I had to kind of figure that out. Like, what is it that I wanted to do? And I would get some work, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I wasn't sure that I was really happy with the type of work, and I wasn't getting enough of it to not need to ask that question of myself. So, when it came into the fine art stuff, I had to be really careful about that because, with painting, a lot of times and it just in general, you know, as a professional artist, and you know, if anyone knows, this is Devin Rook, you know, Rook, who asked this question. So Devin's an awesome, amazing artist. He's an art director over at Romero Games. By the way, shout out to Romero Games. Empire of Sin, go get it. It's coming out. And so,
buy it
but
today, guys.
buy it today.
Buy it today.
I don't know if you can pre-order it, but anyway, so
if you can't buy it today, but sorry.
Yeah, buy it from Denman, right? Buy Denman coffee. So, but you know, when I started to figure this out, I used to just submit pieces for like these group shows that would have themes. So sometimes it'd be like, okay, we're all gonna paint themes of food. Okay, we're gonna paint themes of portraits of celebrities or something like that. And that was a really popular thing that a lot of galleries would do. And so I would try and get those types of shows because I thought, okay, I'm just showing. So the more I show, the better. But the thing I really realized is that you have to build your career in a, you know, you have to control where your career goes in terms of the type of work you do, because the only thing you're going to get hired for is the stuff that's in your portfolio. So if you don't have stuff that, if you have stuff in your portfolio that you're not really happy with, or you'd rather be doing something else, you're never going to get those jobs because you don't have it in your portfolio. And so I started to really focus on my own personal work and paint things that I really, really wanted to paint. And once I started to do that, you know, things started to move for me. But that was something that I had to learn, you know, outside of school. I didn't realize how much of a how much control I had over the trajectory of my career, and how like you could easily fall into doing a type of work that you're not happy with, but it pays the bills, and you know, and it's sort of like a vicious cycle, right? It's like you're getting more work because of it, but you'd rather be doing something else, but your portfolio is filled with that type of work, and so on and so forth. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add to that, there's so much to be said about like steering your portfolio into what you want what you want the jobs to be. You know, you can do something really good coming out of school, and then you end up doing all this. I think we were told in school, you know, don't put anything in your portfolio you don't want to be painting.
Right.
So you can come out of school with all this stuff that was, you know, assignments that you thought were good, but it might not be what you want to work on. And
right.
if you start going down that road, then it's like, oh, now you're doing stuff that you don't really enjoy. So I've found, at least I mean, I was working on D&D pretty early, but you know, I really wanted to work on Magic, so it was like a matter of pushing images into or just pushing a feel or a style that is Magic into the D&D work I was doing. And if you want to build your portfolio in that direction, it's really good to, even if you have to do samples, push those into your work so that you can steer yourself to the things you really want to be painting, because it's so much easier when you're enjoying the projects.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's not easy at all, you know, and because, you know, when you're a student, you're told that stuff. We were told that stuff, but like, you know, at the end of the day, we were like, well, we've got loans we got to pay. I'm just going to use whatever I have. Please hire me, you know. So
yeah.
Hey guys, it's me again.
Time.
Hey.
The amazing Kate Welch.
Hi. Yes, it's me again. A wonderful commenter named Boyfruit asks, what was one thing you guys did learn in school that you only realized the importance of later?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Jesus.
So do you want me to go first, Tyler, or
yeah, go ahead. There's so many things, so go ahead.
There's just so many things. So here's the thing about that. Like, the more I've, and I think Tyler can agree with this, the more you study, the more like, you know, your teacher can say something and it means one thing, but then the more you study and the better you get, all of a sudden you realize that, you know, that it also means so much more. So for instance, like the idea of working in just from a technical thing, you know, standpoint, the idea of what I'm doing right now is kind of laying in all of my, you notice like I'm laying in all of these darker colors and laying in all of my bigger shapes because I don't want to get anything too specific too soon. And that's one thing that I'm doing for this, for this piece, because this is what it calls for, I think. As a student, I understood that and I would follow that direction. But now I understand like that it means, the idea of understanding value unity, and what that entails. Like, like you're essentially a conductor, and you're trying to conduct all these visual elements together to make them both just everything to sort of work in concert with each other. And it's only when all of the pieces are working do you get something that's like really beautiful. And that type of like Zen stuff, it's like big idea stuff, but it really takes a lot of understanding to really fully wrap your head around it and be able to implement in it. So I would say that's like an example of one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% agreeing in that like we learned all these concepts, right? And you learn all these concepts as you go to school and through life, through working on projects. And there's like a weird clarity you get when you start realizing, oh, that's what they were trying to show me. I just didn't get it. Now I'm able to combine all of that stuff into something that works. It's just like a click. I recall, like with color theory for me, I always struggled like crazy. And like you were just saying, like everything needs to be harmonious and work together. And with color, I was always struggling to get that to work. And then just, I don't know, out of the blue, working on a bunch of different pieces at once, I came to realize like, oh, okay, so this is how it works. And I don't know if that's always the case for everybody, but sometimes there's a snap and something just falls right into place.
Yeah, and it's, because especially as a student, you're learning so many things and everything feels like you look at a piece of artwork, sometimes, and I know I would look at early on in school and just have no clue how it was done. Like just,
yeah.
I said, it's like, I know you use brushes and I know you use, color, and I know these are the colors that you use, but I have no idea how you did that, and it's one of those things that it's simple to understand, and it takes a lifetime to truly master, and so that's why this stuff is like, our teachers would tell us stuff like, I'm still, they would say, I'm still learning. And like Bill Mom would say that, and my teacher Craig Nelson would say that. And I would think to myself, like, I was like, I think you're lying to me. You've been painting for 40 years. What more could you possibly still be learning? But, like I just feel right now that I just got the concept of how to paint,
Yeah.
And I know like in 10 years time, I'm going to come to the realization that I didn't know what I was talking about, or I didn't know anything 10 years ago. And now I'm just getting to the beginning stuff. And because there's just a lot to learn. Was it one of our mutual friends and art heroes, Greg Manchus, would always say like, why do you think Yo-Yo Ma does, still practices, and he practices scales? And for those of you who don't know who Yo-Yo Ma is, he's a world-class celloist, right?
Gymnast, right? He's a gymnast? He's a gymnast.
No, gymnast. Oh man, I wish, right? Then he would only be good for so long. So plays the cello and he's incredible, and he still practices every single day. Or like, why do athletes run the same drills that they've been running since high school, in the pros? There's something to be gained by that much amount of repetition, because you start to realize the intricacies start to open up to you, that that are only a result of tons and tons of experience. You're just a lot more wiser, as a outside of school. Great question.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking me.
I got
yeah,
more.
that
I
was
got so
awesome.
many more questions.
And this is the kind of stuff I mean, when we're working, chatting on Skype or something, working together, these are all kind of things we're throwing around, trying to figure out, like, oh, you see this guy, like, one of our favorite artists is Thomas Blackshear, and we'll be looking at like Thomas Blackshear stuff and be like, see what he did here. That's just important stuff for art learning, is looking at as many of the best people as possible.
Yeah.
All right, next
And
question. Hold on. Sorry,
okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but we've got
That's
great
okay.
questions coming in.
Great.
Tesos K says, does Tyler have a favorite amongst his D&D illustrations?
Yeah. I would say it's I did a piece for Bolo's Guide to Monsters. It's this big illustration of
Yeah, the
like a
cover,
big
right?
frost giant. Yeah, the cover piece for that.
It's a great piece.
That one, I just love that one. Thank you.
And question
So,
for both of you from J. Madalena. What are your steps for a larger project, like thumbnails, color studies, etc.? How do you approach something like a fantasy commission or personal project?
great question.
Yeah.
Let me jump. Let me jump in on this one.
Yeah, totally, man.
So there's a lot more involved, right? Like right now we're painting portraits, and I've got like reference right over here. I'm just going with what I see. There's a very different task I've found in fantasy illustration than that. You have something visualized in your head, and now you have to get that out on the page. And to me, that consists of lots and lots of little sketches and thumbnails. Sometimes I land on it right away. Sometimes I have to do way more sketches and thumbnails than I want to be doing. And then from there, it's like tons of fine tuning. I got to get the energy of the sketch out, and that's what I want to maintain. But then I need something really accurate to whatever they want as a job. So whatever their intellectual property is. So I got to get the reference correct. Sometimes I'll shoot reference. Sometimes I'll use 3D tools to build reference. There's a lot of sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, just like slapping different things together until they work. And from there, I start to build like a really tight composition, where I'm really going into the details and figuring out where my values lie, and where my I guess I think about color last. So I'm trying to think of, I want a really strong value statement, like Ray was talking about earlier, and that's where I begin. And then I start building fidelity on top of that with more sketches, more detailing, sometimes little studies to get things right. I used to do everything digitally, so now I'm working more traditionally, and it's causing me to sort of restart a lot of those processes from a different angle. But I always advise young artists to do as much pre-prep work on a piece as possible, because it makes the final go that much faster. I don't know if that answers it super fully, but start with sketches.
Yeah, I thought you did. I thought you did a great job. By the way, this is the reason why we both of us are. This is the only reason why I'm here, since Tyler is doing a great job.
Yeah,
but
it's true though.
Yeah. So, Kay, could you repeat the question? I was just listening so intently to Tyler's answer there.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
What are your steps for a larger project, like thumbnails, color studies, etc.? How do you approach something like a fantasy commission or a personal project?
Right. Well, I think that's I think what the main sort of theme that Tyler is kind of pushing too is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but I'm going to quote Greg Mantis again, because he's just filled with. By the way, if you've never heard of Greg Mantis, go look at his work. He did the Captain Morgan pirate, amongst a billion other things. He's got a great book called above the Timberline, which he wrote and illustrated. And I think it's a masterpiece.
Fantastic set of images.
Greg, he would always tell us, he told me one time, he's like, the thing that takes the longest for me, because I think I asked him, I says, what takes so long? What takes the longest for you in a process? And he says, when you get to be a professional, and I had talked to him when, I was like it's just a student. I didn't know anything. And he had said, eventually it's not going to be the how to do it. It's going to be the what to do. Right. And so he says the idea phase, what it is that you're going to do, and really takes the longest, because you got to start off with every single project not knowing, at least every single project I start off with, whether or not it's a illustration or a gallery piece, I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have to figure this out. And so like I'll do thumbnails and spend a lot of time hammering out, like Tyler was saying, like just a value pattern design. And a lot of this stuff, I know we both hated doing this stuff in school. Like we were just like, I want to get to the finish. I want to do the thing with the oil wash, and then come back over with the pencil, and then pastel. Ooh yeah, let's get some of that. I want to do this technique or that technique. And when you get into a professional setting, you realize, oh man, I have to not only do this super high quality, but I have to do it very fast, and I've got to make sure I can track my time and chart that time. And that by the way, is applicable without a doubt to more personal or / gallery work, because you can't work on something forever, and there's got to be some sort of for lack of a better word, end product at the end of you have to have something to show for it if you want to use your artwork to to build it as in the context of a career. And so these things that we were learning in school were steps in order to manage our time efficiently, because this is the one thing you don't have an amount of, right? And so, for my personal work, I do thumbnails. Why? Because I could really get ideas down quickly. I don't have to be precious about them. And usually my first ideas are the worst. They're just like the most contrived, boring ideas. And it's not until I get those out of the way, work those out of the sort of the thought process, that I can actually start to develop the image and push it towards more of a interesting step. And then everything else is okay. Now I have this great idea. I think it's got the bones, the large, on a big idea front. I know what I need to do. Then all of a sudden that turns into the how to do it. And that's what Tyler was saying. It's, collection of reference. It's like, oh, I would love an awesome train here. Okay, what type of train? Alrighty. And so you don't have, unlimited, unless you have all of, a photographic memory where you've stored every single train ever created in your head perfectly from every single angle. You're going to have to look it up and research it, right? It's like researching,
you gotta be Kim
doing
Jong-G
a paper.
otherwise.
Yeah. And so, so you look it up like you would if you were doing like a term paper or something like that, and you do that so that you can get believability, right? Because and that's how you make things feel natural. And then from there, it's just building up the image. And so that, I'll do a value study, like a more intricate value study, and sometimes a color comp if I don't know what it is that I want to do for the color. So everything has a reason that it exists. I don't think that's the one thing that Bill Mon told us. Like, a step is a step because a step should be a step in your process because it should help you get to the finish. And so there should be a reason why you do things every single step. Right. You should have a reason why you're doing that. Like we just explained why we were starting the way we are starting, with the tone surface, so and so when we talked about like images like, you know, Thomas Black or someone like great illustrators like Dean Cornwell or Drew Struzan, you know, or painters like John Singer Sargent. We not only view it as like an appreciator of art, like, wow, this is great, isn't this so cool? And you know, we're consuming it, but we're also viewing it on like, okay, how do you think they did it? You know, and how would we be able to pull this off?
Right.
And it's a different mindset, and it's something that, you know, I didn't do until I went to art school. And because I just thought like, oh man, there's no way I could be able to do that. You know, so and so good. I'll never be as good as that. So, you know, I'm just going to enjoy it and appreciate it, and that's okay to appreciate it. But if you're going to be a professional and grow from it as an artist, you have to start thinking it, breaking it down analytically, and understanding that the people that you admire are just human, right? And so they had
Yeah,
a
they have a
process.
method.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's
And so,
here's another question. This is more about fantasy art. This is from Tesos K. We're all fans of fantasy here, but do you think that as time passes, fantasy illustration is contained ever more to a niche part of the industry? And does it run the danger of becoming culturally irrelevant? This genuinely worries me as an aspiring illustrator.
I mean, I think it certainly can, like, stylistically become irrelevant over time. You know, you look back at fantasy illustrations, you know, of the 70s, and they're pretty different stylistically. There's like I guess I would call it like a taste level that goes around fantasy art, and it gets updated constantly. You know, there's certain aesthetics that are no longer acceptable in the and it's not because it's like, oh, that's taboo or whatever. It's just like that just doesn't look good anymore. We've moved into a different look. You know, the example would be like what you know, Peter Jackson, Richard Taylor did on the Lord of the Rings. Like they set a particular standard for what fantasy visuals need to look like, and that kind of, there's a big shift in the fidelity that was attached to fantasy art. So I guess to round back, I think sure things over time will become irrelevant, but I think they shift with the taste and the time. You know, who knows? Like it's just like looking back on fashion, right? You look back on how people dressed in the 90s or whatever, and you laugh. We may look back on fantasy illustration now, the aesthetics that are used now, and laugh. Like it may be laughable. I have no way to predict that. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think that was a
yeah,
great answer.
yeah, I think there's a great answer. It's yeah. Short answer for me is yes. If you look at that's the one thing that what I would recommend doing is, you know, I don't think, just from somebody who, I mean, I don't work in fantasy anymore, but I know just from studying illustration history that nothing is forever, right? And so, will fantasy art ever go away? No, but it's not. It won't be the same that it is now, and 10 or 20 years from now, right? I mean, it just can't. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's so many industries. Like, look at the movie poster industry. You know, like some of our teachers, I mean, made extremely good livings doing that. That was the hot thing to do. And now, you know, artwork, it didn't go away completely, but the industry is not what it used to be. And so the money moves all the time. And I think that was a big thing that we were talking about as what we learned in school was, you know, is to always keep your skills, you know, your skill level high, so that if, you know, things moved, you could shift with it. And also, you know, one day you might not want to do the fantasy or particular, or to want to try something else. And
Yeah.
so, if you don't have, if your skills are so specific to creating only one type of artwork a specific way, then you'll find yourself trapped, and that's a place you don't want to be in. You know.
Yeah, and no one's really tied to I mean, I'm very tied to fantasy illustration, but I know plenty of artists that just do it because that's where the work is. And some don't want to do it at all. It's, I'm not, I mean, that's kind of a non sequitur, but I mean, it's just find where you want to be working, right?
Right.
Do the kind of work you want, do work on the subject matter you want to be working on.
Next question from
Cool.
Evacuate. As creative professionals, do world/current events mess with your motivation and inspiration? And how do you overcome it if it does?
Great question.
Yeah.
Gosh, there are approaches to this. I don't know. There's a level of escapism in fantasy art, so maybe that people escape that way. But there's also artists that get inspired by events, and it sort of paints their expression. I don't know if I'm an artist like that, but I don't know if I have a good answer for this.
Well, I think it's for me. I mean, obviously, the world events, have affected me just because I live in the world, right? And so,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think my attitude has always been like, you can control the things that you can control, and you can't control the things that you cannot control. And so, you just have to make sure you're doing what you can as an artist in the scope of what you could control. And so I can control going to the easel and producing work and trying to get, opportunities. Is it hard, to do it? Sure. But, even if before all of this, what we find ourselves in now started, it was hard then too. I think it's just you learn how to be. You really learn how to be, and this goes back to like what you learned outside of school question. It's the mental fortitude that is required to become a professional, because you're going to deal with this type of stuff a lot, since you spend a lot of time by yourself in front of the proverbial mirror, kind of analyzing yourself. And so this is going to come up quite a bit. And so it's just about
maybe that leads to like the question, like what kind of artist do you want to be? Do you want, if things piss you off in the world, do you want that to be expressed in your work? I don't have the answer for that, but I think it would be important. Like if that's what you want to be doing with your art, then that's super important.
Yeah.
What about like motivation? Do you guys find yourselves demotivated?
I think that's what I was trying to get across. Yeah, like
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
lose motivation, on an ordinary day from time to time, and it's just about, trying to just constantly keep creating or not. Sometimes there are times where I need, like, if I just finished doing a bunch of work and I've been working nonstop for months, you just sort of get drained, and that's where like that part of the brain that sort of doubts, all those doubts start to creep in if you take a day off or things like that. And sometimes you just need to constantly keep taking care of yourself, and it's really important to just surround yourself, with things and also people that are supportive during those times. And so I'm very fortunate that I have that, and I know Tyler has that too. And so yeah, and I think engaging in the arts community, I think the internet's a phenomenal place for something like that, because geez, I mean, we're on TV, Tyler, right? Like,
look at us. Look at us.
Yeah, and so this is I'm using this for motivation just as much as everybody else is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what our goal attempting to do this today, and we have the idea of doing more of this in the future.
Yeah.
Is this world is fucking crazy, if you pardon my French. But we still want to be making art. We want to be excited about it, and we're doing art together. Maybe doing this and chatting with people while we work. Maybe that can help us feel good about doing art in a crazy time.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure.
Okay, I've got a question now from me, Kate Welch. If you guys are going to
The
keep doing
fantastic
this,
Kate Welch.
the fantastic Kate Welch, if you guys are going to keep doing this series, which I'm a big fan of this idea, you're going to need a good title. And I just want to bring this up. I want to bring this up to the chat too, because all of my titles got rejected. I apparently I don't have the gift. Shall I read to them the titles that I suggested?
I think you should, just so that they know, they have context as to why they failed to be used.
Sure. Okay. So the titles that I proposed yesterday, and it was mostly just like, hey guys, you guys should come up with a title. So I'll start you off with some ideas.
Yeah.
Dr. Mega Respect. Buffalo Wangs.
Yes.
Art Boys with Art Toys, which Tyler actually does like that one, which is easily the worst one.
It might be my favorite.
We got into Academy of Fart Tracers, and Fine Fartists. So I think that's as far as we got. Obviously, you can see the
what
kind
about,
of
what about the ray tracers? That's good too.
Ray tracing would just be, if this was just ray, obviously it would be called ray tracing.
Right.
Maybe it should just be ray. Maybe.
Talp the Scott says, we need to know how low the bar is, and then I read the titles, and Talp said, I don't know what I expected, but it was somehow worse.
Now you understand what we're coming from.
Yeah, we have a very fixed set of skills, everyone. So just because we're creative in one sense doesn't mean it applies to everything else. Yeah, we do have to come up with a better title. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the community can help us.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the community, yeah.
Okay, another question from Tesos K. In art school, we are taught that most of great art depends on personal vision and expression. But if we're being practical, as an illustrator, you're essentially a specialized worker. So I am more worried about making things that look professional or adequate. So my question is, what makes a piece professionally adequate?
I mean, that's relative, right? In my mind, what makes it professionally adequate is it appropriate for the brand you're painting for? I'm an illustrator, so I work for various brands. If I presented them with work that didn't look anything like their brand, it would probably look unprofessional. So that's kind of the standpoint I come from, is that if you're presenting them with work that looks like work they would be using for their brand, then that's a very professional way to present it. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I don't think the two aspects have to be mutually exclusive. I think you're hired for your ideas, but basically the prerequisites to being a professional is that you have to know the fundamentals of drawing, painting, color, and composition. You have to know all these things just to be considered, and then the ideas come into play. I mean, because you can have the best ideas in the world, but it's a visual medium. So if you can't visualize them, then they're no use to you, right? And so I think that's the specialization is just basically another word for like what Tyler was saying, what it is that you really want to do. Because at the end of the day, you're an artist, right? And so you're a creative professional, and you're also trying to become you're using this to create a livelihood. So it's definitely a balance, but at the end of the day, you have to have good ideas, and you have to be able to visually execute them.
Yeah, I agree with this the balance, like what Ray just said. Like it's you know, as an artist, you have your own voice and your own style, and usually you're hired for that. But you're also doing work for someone's brand,
Right.
if you're an illustrator. So that's the balance. It's, you know, you are your style, and you're hired for your style. So balancing that with your work is, and sometimes, you know, I have had conversations, you know, professional conversations with art directors saying like, you know, this isn't necessarily what I do. Do you want to proceed? Because I'm not really here to change my style of work. And those are hard conversations to be had. But you know, if your style is very important to you, and you don't want to put work out there that's basically not anything in your style or look, then you have to have those conversations with art directors.
Right. Yeah. So it's a minefield, right?
Yeah, it's a balancing act. There's so
Yeah.
much I think in any art field, you have to learn to do a lot of juggling, a lot of hats. You know, we're all artists. We all have our own style, but you know, we also have to. There's time management, organizing. You're trying to. This is a business. It's your lifestyle. There's a lot. There's a lot of vectors.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where you learn a lot of that balancing stuff, you know, outside of school, because there's no way the lifestyle of a student, you know, especially if you've been a student for, you know, from, you know, primary nursery school to primary school all the way up to college, you know, it's a completely different life, you know, when you graduate. It's like a night and day difference. You sort of dropped in this world where there's really not much of a support system, with the exception of your peers. And so, you know, that type of stuff will come up, and you're going to have to answer those questions. But, you know, take it one step at a time, is what I'm getting at, you know. Because and all these questions, you know, it's so funny. Like, I'm on the other side of this, because I used to ask every single question that's been asked. I've probably asked our teachers and artists all the time, because I mean, they're great questions, but you realize that, you know, when you're on the other side of it, they're so specific to each artist's journey that, you know, my answer to someone's career, if they should be painting X, Y, and Z, really isn't is specific to me and has nothing to do with them, you know. And so it's a lot of times you just have to kind of figure it out, and the answers will present themselves to you, if you keep working at it and improving and things like that.
Yeah, I think I try and ask, you know, when I go to a convention and I have a table or something, and a student comes up and asks questions about what they should be doing, I turn it around, because I can't tell them what they should be doing. I ask them what they want to be doing, and then I try and give them advice and tools to get to that place.
I got a couple things to tell you guys. I'm excited to report. Sam White is in the chat.
Yo.
Incredible artist.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We've got some title suggestions from Paradox Moose. I'm just going to rattle them all off to you because I think they're all amazing. Crossed Streams, Untitled Art Stream, Lowest Common Demon Arter, Art Degrees Are Useless, Traditional Fart, which I think we definitely contemplated at one point. I like this one a lot. What Could Go Wrong? Cadmium Insanity, Still Learning, Titanium Lockdown, Artists on Board, and Herding Cats. All very good. Extremely good.
Herding Cats is actually, that's a top one right there.
Herding Cats is pretty good. That's kind of what it felt like getting this stream together. Okay, but a real question from Denman Rook's wife, Caitlin,
Caitlin.
In what ways has teaching made you a better artist?
Oh yes, Ray,
Oh,
you're on this, man.
yeah. So, without a doubt, it's definitely made me a better artist because as a teacher, you have to. Um, it's a great question because I'll give you. I was just actually listening to my teacher Craig Nelson do a live stream earlier today, and he was asked the same thing, and I'm going to give you his answer because it's definitely the answer that I would do. So I'm not so creative. So I do apologize for the
Thief. So you're
plagiarism,
gonna
but
steal from him. I see what's
yeah, so I'm just going to steal. I'm just going to steal for Craig because I'm lazy. But I think as an artist, you have to, for me as an artist, in order for me to understand something, I have to understand on all levels. Like I don't do, a lot of things aren't intuitive to me. But as I kept working, more and more art, and that's not necessarily the case for students, right? You can't just tell a student, explain to a student to go use color and I don't know, just say like, okay, there's temperatures, warm and cool temperatures, and go for it.
Yeah, good
You
luck.
have to explain. You have to explain the very fundamentals of it, and I think you being able to do that and being able to execute that in front of them makes you a more articulate artist because you have better control over those principles, over those things as an artist, and so your skill grows because of that. And I think without a doubt, because I've taught, I've definitely had a more intimate understanding as to why and how things work the way they work, and that's allowed me to integrate that in my art immediately and benefit from that. And yeah, I hope that was that's like a quick answer to like a really great question. And Caitlin's another fantastic painter, so really, really great. Have you met Caitlin, Tyler?
I think I might have met her years ago, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure. I mean, we hung out with Denman a lot, but I
Yeah. Now imagine Denman times a billion, and then you get Caitlin.
right. Oh, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
Okay. But to jump in on what Ray was saying there, though. I've done barely any teaching in my life, but when I have done it, it has definitely helped me understand my own process better. It's that what's that whole breakdown, like learn something, do something, or learn something, teach something, do something, or something like that.
Yeah.
That is, I 100% support that. Like it is helped me tremendously on the few times that I've done, like helped at a workshop or done some tutorial work online. It has helped me understand my own process tremendously.
Yeah, and I think it's something that I just recommend people doing because it's just really when you realize you have to explain something, like I view it as like I was talking to my mom about this, just she had asked me kind of this similar question, and I said, hey, remember I was like, I'll put it to you this way, Mom. You know how to drive, right? And I've seen you do it. It's sort of naturally. Remember when you had to teach me how to drive and how crazy an experience that was? And she said, "Oh yeah, oh my God, it was like I didn't know what to do. Like I would say, like don't do that. Why would you not look both ways before going? Why would you just slam on the gas? And so it's all of those things that are they become intuitive, but going back and revisiting them really allows you to appreciate it more and be an expert.
Yeah, it's a challenge, like articulating something that's become intuitive to you. You forget all the steps that you had to go through just to learn it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think that's a teaching constantly reminds you that.
I got another one for you, and it's got a word in it that I'm definitely going to pronounce wrong. But
Okay.
do you have, this is from
Great.
Taste SK, Okay, I got this. Very technical question. Any tips for sfumato with oil paints?
Yeah.
Oh, sfumato, yeah.
Yes.
Sfumato.
Sfumato. Yeah.
Sfumato.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
smelled, but it's spelled like tomato. So
Right.
I
Right.
think maybe the Italians just got it wrong.
That
Probably.
is possible. That is possible. We're gonna go with that. So sfumato. You want to take this, Tyler, or, and
No, go for it. Go for it.
so it's so for those who don't know what sfumato is, it's just Italian for smoke, and it's a, a principle essentially used when depicting form um, in your pieces, three-dimensional form. So when you're trying to depict three-dimensional form on a two-dimensional surface, there are many sort of rules that you have to follow in order to create that illusion, because that's what it is, right? I mean, when you look at something that looks three-dimensional, it's like, wow, I can't believe it. It looks like I could reach into it, but it's not. It's a piece of paper. And so sfumato is one of those principles. And in oil paint, it's actually quite easy, because it's about sort of treating the edge of form as smoke. Like smoke doesn't have any discernible edge, and so you're playing with a lot of focus and things like that. And because oil paints tend to, they're one of the longest sort of drying medium, or the slowest drying medium, I should say. The paint stays wet for a really long time, and you can pick and choose where those edges are. And the tip for oil painting is the same tip for every other medium, in a sense. Like, you just want to soften kind of you want to just be careful with making everything a hard edge. And so I usually tell people, start off with, because edges are a very complicated thing if you just sort of think about all of them in a single picture at the same time. Just get good at understanding how to control the edges of form and cast shadows. And so, like, form shadows, for instance, are edges, are shadow shapes that are produced when light hits a form, where it happen when the light is turning away, or the form is turning away from the light. And so that is a gradual transition. So you're gonna have a soft edge. And then a cast shadow is actually a result of that same form intercepting the light, which causes it to cast its silhouette onto another adjacent form. So, for instance, I have a form shadow on this neck right here, and because the head is intercepting the light and casting its silhouette onto the rest of the neck, that's going to be a hard edge. And so you could use sfumato in that extent. It's kind of like it runs into chiaroscuro, which is the light on form, and then once you get good at that, then it's just about understanding the focus of things. And so your hardest edge is always going to be, in a painting, is always going to be advancing the most. And so you can just pick your focal point, like an eye. If it's a portrait, you'll always see, like, if you look at a portrait of a Rembrandt portrait, or any portrait in the museums, you can see that even if you can see both eyes being hit by light, one of the eyes is going to be sharper and have much more contrast than the other. And that's using sfumato in order to accomplish that. And with oil paints, a lot of artists have made do it one of, there are many ways they do it, but one of two principles. There are like two major principles. One, a lot of artists like to keep all the edges soft and then pick the hard edges after the fact. Others like to keep everything hard and then soften after. No way is better than the other. It's just whatever's more comfortable to you. So
yeah, that's how you want to approach it.
Yeah. I hope that make any sense, Tyler? I don't even know.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I was trying to think of examples so people can see. I mean, one of our teachers in school, Zhao Ming Wu, was an absolute master edge control, which is, you know, part of the whole Sfumato concept. If you want to take a look at Xiaoming Wu's work, he's got, you know, website and everything, but
Yeah.
take a look at how he controls the edges, where he blurs the line, where he keeps his focus. That in itself, I've found when we had classes with him was just a huge eye opener.
Yeah, and
And
he's
like
a classic
Ray said,
example.
with oils, it's easy. Yeah, he's a perfect example. Yeah. But like you're saying, like with oils, it's wet. Like the paint is wet, so it's very easy to smooth it around. Like I'm doing the same thing on this piece now. I'm trying to find those edges that blur, and then I'm using a brush just to smear it, essentially, to smudge it around.
Yeah, if you look at also Andrew Loomis, Loomis, if you've never heard of him, he's an illustrator from the 30s, 20s, 30s, into the 40s, and he produced a great series of books on illustration and drawing and painting that are still used today. And one of them is called Creative Illustration. And in Creative Illustration, you can get them for free. Just type in the Creative Illustration PDF. And you'll see you can download the PDFs of the books because the copyright's expired. You can get them also like sort of reproduction editions on Amazon for really cheap.
Are they? Who makes those? Is it Illustrator Press?
Titan Books.
Titan. Okay, they're fantastic. Yeah. If you want a hardbound one as well.
Yeah, yeah, they're all hardbound. They're awesome. I mean, they were hundreds of dollars for very used copies when we were in school. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh god.
We'd find them at conventions at like Bud Plant, and it would be $200-300 for just one of them.
The cover would be like dangling off. Anyways, there's a technique called the soft approach, and he talks about different ways of working, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Like soft approach, the brittle approach, learning, understanding edge control, and I think Loomis does a great job of explaining that.
Yeah, he's the master, really.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I'm leaning back to see what you got going on. All right.
Yeah, I'm just developing the. Actually, how are we doing on time? I have to.
If you can we're like, we can. I figured we'd go till like 5. So.
Yeah, what time is it now?
45 minutes.
Oh, 45 minutes. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, so then I can just gonna finish massing this in. So I'm working on, and this again changes every single day in the way I feel about, or just how I feel in a given day. I'm working on just getting the sort of the temperature of the light down, and so I'm trying not to get lost in. I have a lot of other elements that I need to consider, and so I'm just blocking in these big swaths of color and trying to get them working before I start to detail up my my form, because I love turning form in my paintings, but you know, you have to make sure that the stuff that you have down is harmonious and it's going to work. And so because if you start to turn form, like for instance, like right here is a very muddy color, and it's because it's an inappropriate temperature. I'm trying to keep these sort of like cool colors, so like they have an amount of blue in them, and I put something that was a little bit too greenish, like very cold, and it's like I want to balance that out. I don't want it to be too cold. It's like sort of a warm olive green. Mm-hmm. That looks cold in comparison to this really warm, you know, light where I have a lot of like oranges and red oranges and things like that. That's a thing that I had to learn in school. Is like you can't rush. You got to sort of build up your stuff, going simple to complex in many ways, because you have to organize everything in your piece, because it could fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm actually struggling over here on my end with that exactly, because we're both working from basically movie stills.
Yeah.
I'm working with this scene that is incredibly blue lit. So I'm really playing with trying to shift the blues into warmer areas, which is, essentially going between saturated blues to gray blues. And that's kind of what I'm playing with on this one right now. I'm just exploring how to tell this story of this image in all the blues that are represented. It's just a blue mess, and I'm having fun kind of just struggling here. But there's fun in the struggle, right?
Yeah. Well, as a student, it wasn't fun, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I got to make a career out of this. I can't mess up,
Yeah.
and everything was super serious. But as an artist, I mean, as now after the fact, I can, when you're trying something different, it's a lot of fun because you learn a lot from messing up and then understanding how to get yourself out of a hole that you dug yourself in the first place.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. It's kind of fun. Like, you're learning as you go, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've always found I'm really against this idea that like every piece has to be perfect. Just go throw things away if they're not working. I don't even know if this is going to work. I might throw it away. But as I learn what failed or what's working, I can apply that to the next piece that I work on. We both
Right.
in school, we both had to create a lot of crap before we created anything good.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Yes, we did.
It was a lot.
There's a lot. There
Hey
was a
guys,
lot. Yeah.
it's me again.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Kate.
So we have Frankie Lynch in the chat, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We also have a question from Box One. What are some good art books for someone trying to build up an art book collection?
Oh wow, my collection is enormous. It raises too.
Yeah, I need to.
I love all the illustrated press books that have been coming out lately. I really love John Flesk's books. They're all, bespoke books about artists. He works directly with the artists. Illustrated Press has been doing a lot of old school artists, which are really great to dig into. Golden Age illustrators. I think Ray and I both just got the Mead Schaefer book.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. What else? There's just a ton. Ray, go for it.
Yeah, Andrew Loomis books that we had
Mhm.
just. If you don't have those books, oh man, get them.
'Em.
They're like their books. They're just beautiful to look at because the demos are just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, they're incredible. And even though they were essentially reproductions from the 40s, but it's stunning stuff. Yeah, I think the illustrated press books are amazing. I used to collect a lot of the books on like the competition books, like the Spectrum and
Oh yeah.
and Society of Illustrator books. I've always liked that, and that just keeps you kind of like abreast of things that are going on. And
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because the Spectrum books are at least for me, they're a great way for me to like see what's going on in my own industry as illustration.
And then I was talking to my cousin today, and he's a huge video game fan. He's been getting the art of books, of like his favorite video games, and that's something I think I might do too, like like the art of movies and things like that. I don't know. Do you have any of those?
I would say I like grew up on those kinds of books. Art of Star Wars when they came out. Absolutely ate that stuff up. I was I have some of the art of books recently, like the Art of God of War is really great from Santa Monica
cool.
Studios.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful book. And I used to love the Disney art of books, the
Oh my
Art of
God,
Atlantis with all those
Yeah.
with all the Mike Mignola work in it, like when
Yeah.
no one had even heard of him.
Yeah. Go figure, right? Like,
Yeah.
If you like animation stuff, also like The Illusion of Life, it's basically like this beautiful how-to book to a certain extent on animation principles, but really is also doubles as a history on how Disney developed the principles of animation. It's absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Stunning. I love
Yeah,
the
I like those
book
sort of
books
history books too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's a great book on, it's not, I mean, it's art. It's about Stan Winston Studio and special effects. I'm just, as a side passion, I love movie special effects. So that's a really great book just to see how art comes in to create all those amazing special effects visuals that I grew up with. So yeah, the
Yeah.
Stan Winston book is awesome.
It's not art, Tyler. It's magic.
It's magic. It's movie magic.
It's movie magic, man.
Don't show me behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so
All
good.
right.
There's so much
I'm trying to
good
think
stuff
of some
out
other
there.
ones. Oh, I mean, we didn't mention the Gurney books, but the James Gurney
Oh
books
my
are,
God, yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pick those up
James
if you want to learn anything.
Imaginative realism and color and light. James
Yes.
Gurney, the creator of Dinotopia, and just one of the greatest living, I think, greatest living illustrators, right? I mean, like,
Super nice guy too.
no question. Did you meet James Gurney?
Yeah, I met him at his booth once at like one of the early Spectrums. He was wearing like a pith helmet and some goggles. Dude's a character.
I love it. So I've heard nothing but great things about him. Nothing but awesome things. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, that's a long answer to. There's just millions of really good art books out there.
Yeah. But yeah, I forgot
Don't
that we
stop
were
at
actually,
this illustration. Check it all out.
I forgot we were answering a question.
Two things to note. I may be pronouncing this name wrong, and I'm sorry if I do, but Steve Najarian Art is just rated our channel with their viewers. So we've got channel Steve's folks joining us in the channel.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
We also have some more questions. Paradox Moose asks, how do you suggest finding ADs, art directors, to reach out to for potential work, especially for artists who haven't been networking at conventions and can't do in-person networking in 2020?
Right. That's the hard one, right? I found the in-person stuff is definitely the most valuable, but right now that's just out of the question. What most of the art directors have that I know of have some kind of presence on the internet. So, if it's Wizards of the Coast you want to work for, they have an art drop. You can put your art in there, and it will get in front of all the art directors. If it's publishing, a lot of those art directors, like Irene Gallo, she's at Tour Books. She's on the internet. There are ways for you to get your work in front of her, through social media, and don't be afraid to do that. It's, I think a lot of people worry like, oh, I'm going to be an inconvenience if I just message out of the blue. Well, I mean, they want new people. If you think your work's good enough, they're going to want to see it. I don't think it's going to be an imposition if you message them with your work. So use the internet.
Yeah, use the internet for sure. And also make sure that your first impression is as professional as possible too. Like, because, I think that was one of the big things that like Irene would say. It's just like there's certain, I think we heard her and like Lauren Panapinto talk at LuxCon one year.
Right.
And one of the biggest complaints that they got was people structuring their emails properly. Like, you know, she would say, you could have the most beautiful work in the world, but I'm not going to click on the link if the email says, "Hi, here's my work. Can you check it
100%.
out?" You know, and so I think that's a huge part of presenting yourself. And then also, you know, if they're going to get a lot of work thrown at them, and so what's important is to, you know, just keep on maybe on a monthly cycle, just keep, you know, emailing them, you know, like, hey, you know, with new work that you've done, and you know, you want to keep them in front. I mean, don't inundate them like every day, but you know, one of my, and I think this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, this might be applicable to your industry as well. Like when I got jobs for the New Yorker, I was emailing. It took me like a year's worth of like emailing work to the art director, who at the time was Jordan Awan, and he would, you know, but he would never respond back. And it wasn't until I actually met him in person one day at a convention that he said, "Thank you so much for sending me this stuff. I know I don't write back, but I'm constantly looking at it." So there is somebody else
Yeah.
on the other end that is looking at the stuff, you know.
Yeah,
And
they're busy. They're definitely
yeah,
busy, but staying in touch and being super professional, like Ray said, you know, say, you know, don't just be like, "Hey, what's up? Check this out." Be like, this is a job interview essentially. It may be a maybe a one-way job interview because you may not get a response, but be as hyper professional as possible. And you know, when you check back in, like Ray was saying, you know, just be like, "Hey, I wanted to," don't just say, "Hey," obviously, but be professional in your email and talk about how you wanted to let them see the new work you've been working on. You want to show them that you're trying to improve all the time.
yeah. And they'll, you know, one thing just to splinter off that is, you know, portfolio. I think like making sure your portfolio is focused and making sure your portfolio is as high a quality as possible. One thing Irene Gallo told me in a portfolio interview one time was, "You're only as good as your worst piece."
Right.
And think about that.
Ditch it.
You're only as good as your worst piece, and because they're looking for consistency. And so like an art director, you know, is always going to, they're entrusting you to make that, they're trusting you to make artwork for them and to come in on time, on deadline. And because if you don't, then they get burned, right? And so they're always going to prepare for the worst case scenario. And the way, at least Irene was saying, that she looks at portfolios is like, it is, okay, on my worst day, what am I going to get out of this this artist? And so that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I think I have two things I could say to that. It's yeah, targeting your portfolio is super important. Don't show someone like Irene Gallo, you know, work that would work for, I don't know, Blizzard or something. That's not the type of work. You know, do your research, see what they create, and gear your portfolio to that. Show them that kind of stuff because they want to be able to visualize what you're doing, what your work is. They want to see your work on their products. And then the other thing was, yeah, if you put something in your portfolio that you think is like, this might not work, but I need to fill out my portfolio. I want to have more pieces in it. Throw that piece out. Do not put it in there. It's better to have a few really, really great, perfectly strong, like your strongest pieces, than to have, you know, 4 and then the 5th one's crap. Just go with 4. You know, only the best. Show only the best.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be really good at self-evaluation. I think that's a huge thing. You have to just be, you have to separate yourself from your artwork, which is very hard, and at first, and you have to just give yourself, you know, have an honest view of where you stand, you know, where a certain piece stands, you know, quality-wise, and because, you know, I know that I don't show every piece that I do in my portfolio because, sometimes I don't make the greatest of pieces. Like Norman Rockwell would say, if he had one good piece that he, in a year's work of time, that it would be it was a good year. And if he had two, more than two, he would get down on his knees and pray to the heavens for giving him like an incredible year. Like, I know it's a
and
bit
this is a guy that
extreme.
did 50 some odd paintings a year.
Yeah, and it's an extreme, take on it, but it's not too far from the truth in terms of how you have to look at it. I think,
Right.
Yeah, because, but that's huge, and that's a good reason why, as an artist, you got to surround yourself with people who give you their honest opinions about work. Like peers. That can give you constructive feedback.
Yeah,
I know
don't work in a vacuum. Get
Yeah.
eyes on your work. If you're struggling to put what you want to put in your portfolio, ask friends, ask artists that you might be able to get a hold of, or maybe people that have worked with that client a lot. See if you can reach out to them. Do not like try and work in a vacuum and put an art portfolio together without getting more eyes on it before you present it to a professional art director. And in that process of reaching out, you might land on someone who's like, oh, this looks really great, but I'm going to send this to the art director. So you might get a situation where they're going to vouch for your work.
Right.
Another question from Aaron Rufino.
Hey, Aaron.
Question for Ray. How do
Aaron?
your gallery representations work? Did Abend approach you because you have shown with them in the past?
So I reached out to so for Abend, I had reached out to them. I had friends that were were showing with the gallery, or had shown in the past, and so they were able to sort of get me an introduction, and I had shown them my work, and that's been how I've gotten all of my gallery connections, is just reaching out to them. I'm getting ready to have a group show at the Arcadia Gallery in Los Angeles in August 1st, in a group show there, and that's a gallery that I've wanted. It's like a bucket list gallery for me, and Arcadia Contemporary has some of our favorite artists to show with them, and so it's a huge honor. But I reached out. I put together a nice professional email, made sure everything was set, in terms of my website. Everything was the best I could absolutely make it, and then I sent it away. And go figure, a lot of times, in both cases, especially with Abend and Arcadia, when they got back to me, they both said, "Oh, we've been watching your work," and so it goes to show you, like, it's like these places are hurting for artists, and so you have to kind of take the extra step and sort of make yourself known, because you could have the most beautiful work in the world, but if you don't approach other artists, other galleries, excuse me, or art directors, no one's going to know that you exist. And so, that's how
don't be
that.
coy, right?
Yeah, you can't be, and it's odd, man, right? It's like it's so, you have to learn as a student. We just finished saying, like, you got to be super self-critical about your work, but then at the same time you can't be coy about,
it's tough balance.
Yeah, it's so it's definitely a life of contradictions, but eventually things will sort of click. But it's also having everything, a good portfolio ready to go, and then it's like you said, Tyler, like, being, performance. Like, if you perform well on your job, then that's the best type of networking you could do, right? So if you have a track history of just delivering on time, or then you're good to go. And then galleries, it's sales. You know, if you can sell in that gallery, then they're going to want to work with you even more because it's mutually beneficial to the both of you. And so,
Yeah, like you brought up that point. That's super good.
Yeah.
Like the two different sort of angles, right? The illustration, they want reliability. They're going to go with reliability over anything else. But gallery work, they want to move your pieces. Like they want to make, you know, this is an industry. We all are trying to make a living off of these things. So that's the angle they want to work from.
All right, another question. This is from Dark Sword. Do you guys have any advice on how to study art books? Do you read them as a regular book, chapter by chapter, or do you just visit it as an occasional reference? I have a lot of art books like Loomis, James Gurney, and Scott Robinson, but I have a hard time getting through them because it's so much info.
Oh, good question. You know, I mean, from my perspective, I guess I don't really, I end up flipping through a lot of those and reading the sections that are interesting to me. I tend to not read them as a textbook. I think if that kind of goes to your question, I tend to look through them and I'll see things that I find are interesting, and then I'll dig into that. What do you think, Rick?
Same thing. I was just gonna say, like, you know, that I think that's what makes like those Loomis books so great, but is that I could constantly go back and I could look at different sections. I was trying to think to myself, have I ever read a book from beginning to end?
An art book or just a regular book?
Like a no, yeah, all right. Yeah.
I've never read a whole book. It's true though.
You know, like the Loomis, there's just so much stuff, and some stuff is super dated, you know. But yeah, so just constantly keep revisiting it, you know. And like I like to study it. There are times where, like for me, when I was actually learning how to paint digitally, because Tyler pretty much taught me to you know, remember that? Do you remember that? Do you remember walking me through the painting process in Photoshop?
Oh shit! I think I do. Yeah, we started digging into it. We were both, or you know, right out of art school kind of thing.
Yeah, and so like you know, I remember like looking at that. He was telling, you know, basically drawing parallels to how we would do things traditionally, and showing me like their digital versions, you know, the digital way of doing it. And so to learn that, I would copy the examples in the Loomis book and do digital paintings of those, you know. And you know, so that's one thing I would recommend doing. I think copying is a phenomenal tool. I don't do it a ton. There's some artists that do, but I'll tell you one thing. I have learned, there hasn't been a single time where I've copied something that I didn't learn something, you know. And
yeah,
you know, so try that out, because you know, it's like the equivalence of like close reading. You know, you are really studying things, and because art is a visual language, it just needs, you need that application end of it to fully understand things. You know?
Yeah, I think you're going to learn like I mean, treating a lot of these art books like textbooks, I don't know if you're going to learn as much. I feel like you're going to advance your knowledge a lot more by doing. There's so much to be said when it comes to art, of doing it, actually getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
You can, you know, read about the philosophy of painting all day long, but until you do it, it's going to be really hard.
Right.
Here's a great question from Paradox Moose. Do you guys have any tips on etiquette for reaching out to artists for portfolio reviews or critiques to avoid coming off like a jerk stranger, using them as a stepping stone in your career?
I think it's the same as what we said with art directors. Be professional. They're professionals as well. Some artists I know are art directors at the same time. It's a very blurred line. So be professional. Like, just because they're what you think is a working artist doesn't mean they don't have, I guess, hiring power in the industry. So pretend every artist you reach out to is an art director.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And yeah, just being just being professional. I don't think I could add to that. I guess and if they don't respond immediately, don't worry about it. You can move on to the next artist, and like just be prepared for people not responding. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't worry about it.
don't worry
It's
about
fine. It's fine. They're busy,
Jacob,
But yeah, think of it that way, Go for it.
sorry, Jacob A. Sweet, I think is how that goes. Hey, Tyler. I know you worked on the visual development for certain Magic the Gathering releases like Ixalan. How was your experience developing new visual identities rather than already established ones?
I like doing both, but I do enjoy the building of a new universe. There's a bit more.
Is it more stressful,
solving.
Tyler?
Yeah, there's a lot more problem solving going on because it's from a particular, like from Magic as a particular perspective. There's a lot of vectors you're working from. You're creating a new world, but this new world also has to stand out from all the other Magic worlds, and it can't be any other properties. It can't, if you want to do a fantasy world, or like Ixalan's is a pretty good example. Like we're trying to do a new universe that uses all the Magic tropes, but it's also, we don't want it to look like Pirates of the Caribbean because there's a lot of pirates in that particular set. So there's many vectors you have to keep track of. I like that level of problem solving when it comes to building brand new worlds. But I also, on like the other side of that, I really like facelifting worlds. I've done a lot of that on Magic as well, adding a new look to something that is, I guess, sacred to the brand. I love updating that kind of stuff. I feel like this is a question that could go on for ages. I mean, I think the biggest challenge in making a new world is making it real, making it feel real to everybody, and that comes from digging deep into authenticity. What was it, years ago? What is it, 20 years ago now? Richard Taylor at Weta had this great quote about your visual development is weaving a tapestry of believability. I don't know if that's a direct quote or direct example or whatever you want to. It's not accurate, but he's basically saying that those are the challenges. Like, you need to make something that looks livable, believable. And for Magic, we're trying to create a set that only lives on 300 cards or so, but they still need to have continuity throughout, which means you got to build pretty much everything. You need to build all the armor, you need to build all the weapons, the cultures, and the biggest challenge there in the cultures is making them not derivative. So I think Jeremy Jarvis he was one of the lead art directors on Magic for years. He had a great term for that, and it's the believability of a culture comes from skinning it from different vectors. You're using various cultural elements from what we all know in culture all over the planet, and you're skinning that onto something new. I don't know if that really explains it, but we could deep dive into that. I feel like we should do a whole entire episode in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. I'd be down. I'd be down just to listen.
Okay, a couple of things. Bonks One has a name for the show. Couple of canvases. I think that's nice.
What?
Plus the
like
the
that.
abbreviation for that is COC, which is funny. Steve Nigerian says, with Patreon being a bigger and bigger thing, Any thought on moving towards being an independent artist that relies on more support from a large base of fans and collectors instead of private companies and art directors?
Yeah, I don't
It's
have
a
anything against that.
it's a great question. Um, I did you want to take it? I have an answer. I have my answer.
Oh, go for it, please.
Yeah. So I think that this kind of gets into the stuff that we were talking about trying when answering that whole like becoming a professional and the things we learned uh, that we didn't learn in school. As in working the business end of it is the type of artist that you want to be. Like there's some I haven't done any Patreon, but I know artists that have and have uh, done it successfully. An artist by the name of Ashley Lovett is does Patreon, and she's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely incredible, and it does work that she wants to do. And I think it all depends on like the type of work that you want to do, and the venues that you do it. And as artists too, you it just goes back to kind of like your old you own your own business, right? So you're a sole proprietor. You're your own boss. Unless you work for at a studio, you set your schedule. You are the CFO, the CEO, all of the C's, right? So like
I'll throw all the C's in there.
All the C's in there, and so you steer. You have to figure that out. Like, what is it? What are my options, and what's available to me, and how do I best get a livelihood? How can I sort of manage that out? And I think Patreon is an option. I haven't just looking at it kind of as just in terms of like quickly, not too much of a deep dive, but look, I'm not sure if it's something that I want to do, but it's something. It doesn't make it that doesn't mean that it's invalid, because like I just said, like Ashley Lovett does an incredible job. She publishes books using like public domain properties. Like she did an illustrated book on The Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Because
I'm
they
gonna
know
let you
this
take.
is a musical.
Hi, folks. Sorry we lost audio. I'm on it. We're figuring it out. And that's, folks, that's how you become one of the world's best artists. It's just that easy. See, here's. Oh, they're back? Wait, they're back. They're back? How did they come back? Hold on. I'm fixing it. Are they back? Is it gone? It's saying return of the audio. Is it? I'm back. Oh, they were back for a second. Okay. All right, let me change it to this. See if that happens. See if they're gone. Only now hear Kate. We're we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out. All right. Gone again. Kate's taken over. Everyone's laughing at me. So that's good.
I know the
Maybe
stream,
this.
the
All right. You
quality
guys
of
talk some more.
conversation is, yeah.
Hey, we're talking. We're
I
singing,
know the
we're
quality
dancing.
I know it's a lot more
You guys, are
entertaining
they
when
back?
Kate's on,
You hear
and
them?
the quality
Okay.
is
Whew. All right. Jeez Louise.
sweet. Thanks,
Are we
Kate,
back? Are we
for
back?
Yeah, I think
fixing
you're
it.
back. I think you're back.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if they heard the joke, so I'll do the joke again. So that's how you become, and I mean, what we said in the last 20, 30 seconds is if you follow those steps, that's how you become an incredible artist, just an absolutely amazing artist. So
And
if you
master
wrote all
all
those
facets
down,
of painting.
yeah. So hopefully you wrote all those down, everything we said in the last 25 seconds.
Yeah, we're only allowed to, for secrecy reasons, to say it once, and that's it. So
Yeah, we're not going to repeat ourselves.
yeah.
We're good. They were paying attention, you know.
If you would like to learn more, follow me on Patreon.
So yeah, we had little technical difficulties there, but we're back. What were we talking
Yeah,
about?
sorry.
Patreon?
Were we talking about, so did they get my Patreon answer, Kate, or did that cut out before?
Uh-oh, now we don't have Kate's audio.
Now we don't have Kate's audio. Oh, okay, sorry.
Did we get their answer? Did they hear us
I don't
talk
know.
about Ray's Patreon?
I would just start over from your feelings about Patreon.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying my view, and I don't know, I think Ray and I are pretty good agreement, is if you want to do Patreon, that's for you to answer, right? It's if you don't want to work for companies and you want to make your own stuff, that's great. I know some artists that don't, you know, art direction is something, something you have to get used to. You have to get used to an art director telling you what to do or what they want to see on their product, because it's their product. You're working for them. I mean, it is a partnership in a way, but you are also doing stuff for them, and you have to come to terms with that if you're going to do that. But if you don't want to be doing that, if you want to work on your own vision, then there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to decide what avenue you want to go in and how you can make a living that way.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely well said. And research if you are interested, and this is something that I've started to do, is, you know, research artists that are doing it successfully, and take a look at what they're doing, and then you can ask yourself, like, okay, is that what I want to do? Thanks, Kate. So yeah, and then if it's not, then you could figure out something else.
Yeah, don't limit yourself, and it's not like you can't do both. Just, you know, think about your workload and your sanity. I know plenty of artists that do Patreons as well as their professional illustration work. So there's no reason you can't do both as well. It's just that's a bit of a juggling act, but I'm afraid of that myself. that seems like a lot of work, but I'd do it if you want to do them both. If you want to do just one, go for it.
And the people that do it, for sure. Just, so I think we were talking about this before, just not like we were talking about how, like, we really don't want to put all eggs in one basket, you know, as much as possible, and be as diverse as possible in what we do in terms of, you know, income streams and things like that, you know. And it's not I know, I mean, listen, art is great. I'm really fortunate to be doing it for a living. It's also, when it becomes a livelihood for you, it's a business, right? And so you have to think about things like, you know, how you're gonna have money come in so that you can buy yourself more time to do more art, you know. And these are the things that you have to think about when after everything else, after you've learned how to paint eyes and understand color theory and things like that. And so I think just take it one day at a time too. Don't for those of you that are students and you're still studying in school, get as good as you can. Get as absolutely skilled as you can, and then start to ask yourself questions. Like what are your interests, and then really be a really great investigator into that. Be academic about or a great investigative journalist about a given industry that you want to work in, and just don't look at like a couple of websites, and do the homework. Do the research on it, and then you'll know. A lot of the questions I know a lot of questions that I had as a student that I was asking professionals, I basically found the answers by actually looking and doing the research.
Yeah, you've got to do your research. Can't go into it blind. But I don't know how should we conclude this? This is something we're trying to do here, a new thing. Maybe it'll be like a chat podcast kind of scenario while we paint and chat. I didn't get to the end on this guy here, this the greatest action hero of all time, Ripley. But I will, and I'll post it later on so you guys can see. But maybe we continue working on these kinds of things. Like maybe we let this sit, work on it next time. Or maybe
whatever.
we jump into brand new stuff.
Maybe, yeah. I don't. We'll. I guess we'll talk about it. I also probably want to work on this and finish it up. I know that I'm gonna pick something that I can finish up a little on stream though, for sure. But
this might have been a little daunting for me. I might try something that I can handle faster.
Probably should have projected my reference. And followed.
Yeah, project like I did. Everyone, cut the corners and project it. Do what Strusen would do.
Yeah, that could be. You know what? That could be something that we talk about next stream for sure. And because I think you could. It's not often discussed, and I think both of us are well versed and can articulate, what we mean by that. We're saying it in jest, but we have very specific opinions on it.
I agree. I would love to chat about projection and methods. I imagine these are all things people love to understand.
Yeah.
There's so many taboos attached to so many processes in illustration and art in general. And I think like Ray and I have talked over the years, it's like, well, when acrylics came out, that was cheating. And then when oils came out, that was cheating, or whatever the timeline is for the development of these mediums.
Mm-hmm.
It's always cheating until it becomes the regular process. And then the next new thing is cheating, just like digital is cheating when it first came out.
Or until something easier pops up, right?
Right. We could do a whole thing on that. And since we only got a couple minutes left, I guess we should just sort of maybe sign off.
Yeah, do you guys let them know where they can find you? And
absolutely.
Everybody hit that follow button on Tyler's channel for when we go live again next time. But Tyler, where can folks find your art?
So you can find me on my website is tylerjacobsonart.com. You can see I post on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter, I think, is because there's someone out there who has it. Mine has to be Jacobson Tyler. There's someone out there. And so you can find me there. On my Instagram is Tyler Jacobson Art. Ray?
You can find me on my website, raymondbonilla.com. On my Instagram, I am, I think it's Ray Bonilla Painter. And I think it's on, that's the link, the handle you put in under our frames, right, Kate?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, yeah. So that's, and I am on Twitch under Raymond Bonilla, just all one word. And and I'm on Facebook and all that stuff. but Instagram and Twitter, I'm also there too. I think it's Ray Bonilla. Mostly I'm on Instagram for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so thanks everyone for joining us. I really appreciate everyone taking the time out to come hang out with us, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of this. And thank you so much to Kate Welch
Yes.
for doing such a phenomenal job moderating and breaking, then fixing our audio. We really apprate it.
That was good. And you herded us like cats, which
Yeah,
I imagine was very difficult to pull off.
Yeah, Kate's been instrumental in this, so we really couldn't have done it without her.
All right, boys, you want to call it?
Yeah, we're gonna call it. So thanks everyone.
Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Awesome work. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your night. Bye.